kill, die, die, die.
I have to
Kill,
go.
kill, kill, die, die, die.
I have to
Kill,
go.
kill, kill, die, die, die.
Wait, this was
Kill,
fun.
kill, kill, die, die, die.
Why are you trying
It's
to
ri-
scare me like that?
It's Friday the 13th.
It is Friday the 13th.
Hello, newsies. The news is, check your calendars, it's Friday the 13th. And I couldn't let Friday the 13th in October go by. Well, not just October. Schlocktober. I couldn't let that go by
That part.
without attempting one of the dumbest things ever done.
You're an adverbal maniac in
I
your commitment to things.
went on vacation last weekend, and I didn't get back until Monday. And so over the course of 3 days, starting Tuesday, I watched 10 Friday the 13th films in 3 days, which I do not recommend to anyone.
I watched 0.
Yeah, no, of course you didn't. Why would you do that? No, this is not okay. No,
See,
this is like, listen, Scott is here. Scott knows. No, wait, Kate, watch this. No, Kate
absolutely not.
loves herself too much to subject herself to this.
Well, I'm also a big sissy, but that's very sweet of you. I just feel like this could have been avoided if you wanted to watch Spooky Buddies. That's all I'm saying.
I don't. I would rather watch any of these movies than one Spooky Buddy.
Really?
Yeah.
Even Jason Goes to Space.
Especially Jason Goes to Space.
Even Jason Goes to Hell and Manhattan.
Over Spooky Buddies, yes. Over mostly anything else, no.
Okay.
Like I'd rather watch the Hocus Pocus sequel 12 times than any of these.
We can do that. I can watch that.
Maybe next year for one of your, I have to watch a kids movie and Alex will watch a scary one. We already have things plotted out. You know what we have plotted out for the next 2 weeks, so they'll be good. So we're not. I'm not making you watch any kids movies this year.
No, I'm a big girl this year.
No, you're not.
Come on. I sat through Once Bitten.
Yes, you.
Like a big girl.
Yes, you did. Like a big girl.
They were having sex in coffins.
Man. Joshua says, I'm in the midst of it on my own, watching the first one for the very first time. Well, listen. If you don't know how the first, spoiler alert for all of these movies, if you have not watched any of them, if you've not watched
like
any
35
of these,
years, so like
I'm just saying, if
spoilers.
if you haven't seen any of these and you want to, God, why? But if you want to and you don't want to be spoiled, then I guess come back and watch this after you've seen all of the films. Now, I will say I did not watch Freddy versus Jason because according to which is honestly everyone says is like the most fun thing that Jason was ever in. Because according to my psychosis, that means I would have to watch all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies before I could watch that one too. So maybe next year I'll watch all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And then I'll watch Freddy versus Jason, and I'll review that while you review Hocus Pocus 2.
I love that plan for us.
Okay.
And
That's
also, I love that you justified why you didn't watch that. As if I watched 10 movies in 3 days wasn't enough.
But like that, I almost just watched that one and reviewed it, but I hadn't seen any of the movies that preceded it. And I gotta know continuity, Kate. I got to know where everything came from. You know how I am. Oh, it's all about the long-term storytelling. I'm not jumping into the mania match between Freddy and Jason without watching all the stuff that led up to it. I'll be lost. They're not going to do a full one of those vignettes before the match that catches me up, but gets me up to speed.
They could edit the Vince McMahon stunner for all you know. Like it could be completely off if you do that. But I think it's brave of you to think that they care as much about continuity as you do. But
they don't.
Because
I will tell you right now from watching this franchise, they do not care about continuity.
They were all I I didn't know. I knew there were a lot of them. I did not know there were 10 of them, and I did not know that they. It doesn't matter because I didn't watch any of them, but I didn't know he went to space, and I didn't know he went to Manhattan. So I don't know why in the 80s everything also it was like we did a movie, and now that movie also takes place in Manhattan, and very often also took place in space.
I will say this: the first movie is a different movie, and then they were like, okay, well now we're gonna make new movies from that, like a spin-off of that. But episodes 2, 3, and 4 are the same damn movie.
Okay.
5 is a wild departure that failed miserably, and they were like, this movie never happened. So 6 is a completely is like 6 is also a sequel to 4.
Got it.
5 just didn't take place.
5 has been rejected by its own mother.
Yeah. So like anyway. So like they were like, this is getting boring. We can't just have a lumbering idiot in a hockey mask stalking teens around a lake forever. Let's figure out ways of making it fresh, new, and interesting. So space is their third idea of making something new and interesting. It goes, let's take him from a lake to New York City.
Wild.
That was the first one. They were like, what if we had Jason battle a teenage girl with psychokinetic powers? That's idea number 2. And then idea number 3 was space. They only had that is the progression.
So what one was the best one and what one was the worst one? It sounds like 5 was the worst.
No, honestly, like 5 would have been interesting if it wasn't a Friday the 13th thing at all.
Got it. Okay.
You know, it was a Scooby-Doo episode more than anything else. It was like a whodunit, because it can't be Jason. So who could it possibly be? That kind of thing. It's a copycat killer deal.
Got it.
My favorite is a dirty word. The easiest to watch was probably In Space because it was just dumb, and it was all a bunch of Canadian actors just having fun on a soundstage, and then the worst is all of them. I mean, it's just. I mean, there's nothing redeeming about any of these movies. I can't believe they had that many. Like it was a phenomenon in the 80s with the slasher movies. You had to have like slash, got to have all the slashing. You know, like I don't understand how this movie had those kind of legs. You know, like how did it keep going? I mean, because the reason why is because they were making the movie for $2 million and then it made $15 million, and that's a tidy enough profit in the 80s. Just keep churning them out.
Sure.
If people are gonna keep coming to see your movies, just keep making them. And eventually they were like, it was like 18 to 20 million for a while. Then it was down to 15 million. They were like, people aren't seeing this movie enough. We should definitely take him to Manhattan. And then that movie made less than all the other movies. So yeah, there was a time where there was literally a Friday the 13th movie every year for 5 straight years.
I guess they couldn't call The Rock. Like that's what you do when you have a 10 movie franchise. That's starting to bow in the middle. Yeah.
All right. So Friday the 13th Part 1. The trivia question is how many killers was Jason the killer of blah 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 blah, and everyone forgets that he wasn't the killer in the first one, because the first one he was actually being avenged. It's a bunch of, this begins a lot of the tropes of you can't have sex as a teenager in a slasher movie or you'll get killed.
Sure.
Mostly while having sex, like it's one of those deals. But they do a lot of like Jaws stuff with this. Like they never show you the killer in the first movie.
Okay. Was that at least cinematically interesting?
I mean, it's fine. It's just it makes me go, I don't know if 60-year-old Mrs. Voorhees has the strength to like chop a guy in half with an axe. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess
Fair.
that's the whole point. But Kevin Bacon, I believe, is in this one. This is full disclosure. This is the one I paid the least of attention to because it's the one I had watched multiple times before.
Sure.
Because it's the first one, and you expect the first one to be like, oh well, all the sequels obviously a law of diminishing returns. The first one will be fantastic, and at least it had like the swerve of it was actually Mrs. Voorhees, the mother of the boy who years ago drowned in Crystal Lake while at camp because all the counselors were having premarital sex, doing drugs, and drinking the alcohol. And they should have been watching my boy, who wasn't a strong swimmer. So that's why I had to kill all of you. None of you are the same counselors who were here before. Those people have all grown up and moved away. And rather than trying to track them down and actually exact revenge on the people who actually were responsible for the death of my boy, I'm going to kill all of you. And then
did it feel like they were making like a statement? Or like, was this like a drinking and sex is bad statement, or this was just a trope?
I don't think so. It's just a trope. It's just a thing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't think we're trying to make a statement.
No, I feel like you can tell, like when they go out of their way to like, I'm gonna say something.
Maybe, but nah, I don't think so.
If I had to ask, probably not.
So anyway, it comes down to the Mrs. Voorhees, who reveals herself as the killer to the last counselor. And then the last counselor has to avoid Mrs. Voorhees running through the camp. And eventually they have a fight. And the last counselor, Alice, picks up a machete and decapitates Mrs. Voorhees. And then because she's so weirded out by everything, she decides she's going to like take a rowboat out into the middle of the lake to make sure that nobody else can get to her while she's freaking out. And she just falls asleep in the rowboat. And then the cops pull up in their weird, like late 70s station wagon cop cars. And with a little thing on the top, it goes, wee. And that, like, it looks like you put one of those little red bubble things on top of an old late model Ford station wagon. Anyway, they're like calling to her from the dock. Hey, are you all right out there? And she wakes up barely. And then, which is supposed to be a dream, the rotting corpse of a little boy leaps up out of the water and attacks her and pulls her into the lake. And that's the end of the movie. They don't explain that. Like, how did the boy, was that a dream and you only find out it was a dream in part 2, but like, that's the whole idea.
That's such a cop out. It was all a dream.
I don't remember when in the first movie, if they even mention it, like that he was horribly deformed. Like he like his skull is misshapen. One of his eyes is way low over here, and his jaw's all wonky and everything. They make him deformed in different ways in different movies because they have different makeup directors and nothing's consistent. Hello, that's my thing. But in part 2, he's just revealed to still be alive. I don't know if it was like living in the lake or he didn't actually drown and his mom didn't know he didn't actually drown.
Is he a Loch Ness monster?
I don't know. But the first thing he does is stalk and kill the woman who's now, well, not woman, girl, 20-ish, who killed his mom.
That's sweet. They're both like murdering for each other.
Yeah, I know. Like, you avenged me, Mom, I'll avenge you. But he stalks her throughout her house. It's like, a lot of jump scares and oh my God, it's the cat. And then she opens the refrigerator and it's the severed head of the woman she chopped the head off of.
See, it's good that I don't watch these.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And then she's killed by Jason. Jason kills her.
So that's the only one that's the only kill in the movie?
No, God, no. That's the opening of Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay.
Is tying up the loose end of there was one girl that survived. Haha, no, she didn't. But you do think if you were watching the movie, I'm assuming for the first time, and you didn't know that it was going to follow her the way that Halloween Part 2 followed Jamie Lee Curtis. Like,
sure. Okay.
she survived the first one. She's the heroine of the whole franchise, right? And no, they just kill her off. So now it's part 2. He returns to Crystal Lake to guard it from all intruders. So he's just that's what I'm reading in this synopsis. So he just goes back to Crystal Lake just to hang out, I guess. 5 years later, a group of teenagers show up at Crystal Lake to reopen the camp. And they're going to be they're at a counselor training center run by this guy who's, I'm going to conservatively say 34, and his 18-year-old girlfriend. And I'm just like, nah, well, it's the 80s. You know, it's the early 80s. It's like 82, 81. So a bunch
I'm just going to say, like, as a blanket statement, if there's been like a mass killing and you're like, I'm going to reopen that place, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Find a different venue.
Mm-hmm. Wow, cool for Deathgasm, which is a great name for today. Fun fact, unless my cousin lied to me, my cousin went to high school with Amy Steele, the final girl in part 2. That's cool. Amy Steele actually was one of the better actors in this thing. But in all of these, the final one. But she, they're all there. She's like the, I don't know, second in command of this little counselor training program. But there's a bunch of like just archetypes, but they don't ever come back into play. There's the like great athlete who was paralyzed in a motorcycle accident, and I'm like, okay, so what's going to be the interesting thing about this guy in a fight with Jason? Like his upper body's incredibly strong, but he can't walk. So like, is there going to be a fight over the machete with it, or like, no, he's just on a porch and takes a machete in the back of the head and then rolls in his wheelchair down the stairs. Like they built up a bunch of different archetypes only to never have them figure into anything. So it just like, I don't even understand why the guy was like, are you trying to like build characters like just as characters and then have them just die randomly without actually having any of those things pay off or whatever? It's not great. It's not great at all. The last counselor, Ginny, Amy Steele, she's able to run away and finds this, I don't know, shanty in the woods. It's obviously like nobody really lives there, but it was built by a hobo or something. So she goes inside thinking that somebody will protect her from Jason. Oh, this is also Jason is he's doesn't wear the hockey mask yet. He doesn't get that until halfway through part 3. He's just got a bag on his head with one eye hole cut in it.
So he's Kip Sabian?
I guess. I mean, like a burlap sack as opposed to a paper bag, but you get it. So she goes in there and finds that there is a shrine built to the severed head of his mother. That's what she finds in there, which of course is very shocking. She's able to fight back.
Does he just carry her severed head around? Because wasn't it in the fridge?
It was. He brought it back, and now it's 5 years later, more decomposed in a shrine in the room in this little shanty he built in the woods near Crystal Lake.
Not to be controversial.
Yeah.
There's something off about that guy.
Yeah. I feel like maybe some therapy would be good.
Something's wrong with this guy.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, she fights back. She slams a machete down through his shoulder by the collarbone. And he lies there. We pull off this is where we pull off the hood, the little burlap sack, and find he is horribly deformed. But she
is that like from the lake, or he always was?
That's I don't remember that ever being explained. Okay. Like, did he drown or did he not drown? Some of the later ones seem to think he was always supernatural. Like you couldn't kill him even when he was a child. Some of the movies are like, no, this guy's a regular dude. He's a psycho, and he's deformed and everything. and then we killed him, and that's the end of the movies. And then the next movie's like, just kidding. So like it doesn't, they
see
right,
that would even
they
annoy
do
me.
it.
That's not even just like an Alex thing. That would be something that annoyed
Mhm.
Kate if she was brave.
So Jason's left for dead, and Ginny is taken away in an ambulance. So Friday the 13th Part 2, apparently he's able to remove the thing from his shoulder.
And the cops never were like,
machete.
We should address this.
I don't know. Like I don't know. There's this little homestead, like an old barn and an old property there, and this girl who like her uncle owns it or parents own it, whatever. Grandparents own it. But she's like, oh, I'm going to bring all my friends to the lake and it'll be great. Let's all hang out. And it's all of these just rando people who live there. She used to spend time there. The guy that she like dated when she was like 14 is still in town and like still got the hots for her. And so like, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't. But do you want to go roll in the hay in the barn? It's a lot of that crap. But the most important character in this, maybe in the entire franchise, is Shelley. Shelley is short for Sheldon. He is short and a little rotund, not well put together in the face. He is a theater major and loves to play dress up. And loves to scare people because it's like, why do you always scare people? Like, why do you play these pranks and stuff on people? Because like it makes you into an asshole. This girl that he likes and whatever. It's just like, when we were hanging out and talking, you were a semi decent guy. Why do you do this to people? Why do you scare people? Because it's better to be an asshole than to be a nothing. And I was like, that's kind of profound and like explains a lot of people, like when they're growing up and trying to figure out what the hell, like nobody cares about me unless I provoke them to hate me. And that's better. Anyway.
That should be like an origin story of a villain. Like that's a great,
right. Yeah.
Like that should be Jason's backstory.
But the thing is that he's wearing a hockey mask while scaring somebody. And then he goes and investigates the barn where several people have been murdered and their bodies are just lying there. But he goes into he's got the hockey mask with him. And then he goes into the barn and guys, you in here? And the next time we see Jason, he's wearing the hockey mask. So if Shelley doesn't have the hockey mask, I don't know whose idea it was to like have Shelley scare people while wearing the hockey mask, and then Jason to get the hockey mask. But that is iconic for the rest of the series. The hockey mask is Jason. It's just a weird thing that it felt like it was like just as a wacky idea, just to do it, and then it became like the thing.
His signature.
Yeah, so interesting. But everyone gets killed, obviously. Oh, Friday the 13th Part 3 is Friday the 13th Part 3D. So this is where like in really weird ways that like wave something like right up next to the lens of the camera, and if you're watching it not in 3D, as you only are now, it's like, why are you waving that baseball bat right up next to the lens of the camera? Because in the theater, it'd be like, whoa, a baseball bat, And like there's a bunch of every movie has a doomsayer.
Okay,
you're all doomed. This lake is cursed. Go away, or you'll all be killed.
I would simply listen.
Yeah, it seems like crazy. But one guy's like holding out I've met Jason. He left me this. It's a token appreciation for me warning everyone of Lowndes Place. Here, it's an eyeball. And he puts it right up, and we're like, they went away.
I don't know if our younger friends will know, but like going to a movie with 3D glasses
Mm.
was the highest technology experience one could have in the
Yeah.
late
Yep.
80s, early 90s. It
Mhm.
was an incredible treat.
Mhm. So Chris is the woman who is the final girl in this one. She seemingly kills him with an axe to the head at the end of Friday the 13th, Part 3.
So he just murders people until this part.
He just murders people. Like they're just. I don't find any of these things scary because these are the movies that set up the tropes that have existed through horror movies
For so long,
to this
yeah.
day.
So even like the shock moments aren't shocking because you've seen
they're not
this
shocking
type
because
of
you're like
thing over and over
I know
again.
where I know that guy's coming. If she thinks that Jason is hiding behind this door and opens it, 1,000,000% he's actually standing behind her.
Right.
And then he is, and like, but in 1982, people would not have known that yet and been like, oh. But I'm
or
sort of,
if like Kate in 2023 watched, probably, yeah.
Right, true.
But she won't.
No, but it's fairly benign. There's not a lot of interesting kills either. Like later he will like find ways of like new garden implements to kill people with and stuff, but not really here. Yeah, it is very odd. But anyway, so Chris seemingly kills him with an axe to the head. And then Friday the 13th, Part 4, which definitely takes the cake for craziest moment.
Okay.
In the franchise.
We could have done little awards.
Right. We should have gone with like little different things of like
craziest moment.
That would have the craziest moment. Best kiss, because there were lots and lots of sex. There's a lot of sex. Like there was one director who like the producers were like basically told me to put more sex scenes in there, and like as I basically filmed a porno in the woods. And then the MPAA was like, there's too much sex in this. You have to edit it all out. And I told the producers while they were making me shoot more sex scenes, I was like, they're just going to make this all, you can't release a movie with this much sex in it. And they were like, no, more sex. We want more sex. And so, and then the MPAA made
the actors.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's like, have these weird sex scenes for no reason, all for them to be cut out.
Yeah, there's a lot. Also, there is I'm going to guess a very exponentially higher preponderance of skinny dipping in these movies than anywhere else in nature. Like everyone just co-ed, just not people they're actually currently dating, just like, hey, here's 3 boys and 4 girls, let's all get nude and run into like a lake that is obviously covered in algae. Like it's just none of that, please. Part 4, notable for starring Corey Feldman. At like 11 years old, and Crispin Glover pre Back to the Future, where he played the dad in Back to the Future. He was not a star yet. But he's just one of the random kids.
How is Jason not dead at the end of 3? Is there an explanation?
Well, wait. Okay. This is where they start getting into like a little weird thing. He's taken to the morgue, and the coroner has the hots for a nurse in the hospital, and they plan on having sex after everybody leaves in the morgue, because that's his deal. She thinks it's kind of skeevy, but how could you resist him? He's 5'6" and ugly. I mean, I don't understand why there's a lot of guys in who are making these movies who just thought that guys who looked like them should get hot babes, and so wrote that into the pictures, because at no point anyway, he comes back to life. They remove the axe, which I guess was what was killing him. And he comes back to life and kills the coroner and the nurse. And then he goes back to Crystal Lake. Like,
oh my God, get a new spot. No wonder they put him in Manhattan in space. It gets old.
Yeah, it does. So again, a different part of the lake, 2 cabins, 1 permanent home, of Tracy, who's the mom, Trish, who's the older sister, and Tommy. Tracy, Trish, and Tommy, like one of those families who's got everything, like whatever. They live there. Mom's divorced. Dad lives in the city. The kids go visit the dad occasionally, whatever, but she lives out here. She likes to go jogging around the lake at night. I'm sure that won't come back to haunt her.
Of course not.
And then across the
lake.
like across the lot in this little thing, there's another house that is basically an Airbnb before Airbnbs existed. But like they rented the cottage for the weekend. And it's just a bunch of teenagers up there to like get drunk, get stoned, and have sex.
So there's the first one, the mom had a reason to kill.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, Jason had a reason to kill. And then these ones, he's like, I just hang out at a lake and kill people.
Yes. Yeah,
that sucks.
He doesn't like teenagers. He hates teenagers. He wants to kill teenagers. I don't know, but he does.
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan, but that's why I don't go to Starbucks at like 3:30 p.m. During the school year. Yeah. I just avoid them. I don't have to go to a lake and murder them all.
Okay, so what you got to know about this is that Jason Voorhees has become a local legend. There's lots of there's articles being written about it. People know there's the Voorhees killings or whatever. We know it must have been him, blah, blah, blah.
And you still hang out at the lake?
I don't friggin' get it. Tommy Jarvis, 11-year-old, who the movie says makes incredibly elaborate, very good, professional quality Halloween masks. The movie is telling us that the very best looking Halloween masks in the world are made by an 11-year-old who lives in a cabin by the lake with his mom and his sister. He just makes them as a hobby, but they're better than anything you've ever seen in your life. And that's what he does. He likes doing that. Now this is I think they're trying to say is going to come in handy later for the big moment at the end of the film. Jason kills all the teens one by one in, less than satisfying ways, whatever. This is where they start to give archetypes to the teens, but it doesn't really matter again. The stoner
come into play,
skills, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, Trish, is there. Oh, they're visiting them. They're visiting their dad in the city. They come back. Mom, has been killed. There's a bunch of stuff that they say when I was looking it up. There's a bunch of stuff that gets edited out. Some of the most brutal kills are just gone. They're now deleted scenes, barely visible because of the prints deteriorated, because the MPAA was like, no, you can't. That's too brutal. We can't show that. So some of them, because they can't show that, we're just to assume that when somebody turns around, sees something, and screams, they're dead. And that happens to Tracy, the mother of Trish, the final girl, and Tommy, the young boy, who one of the reasons why he does what he does at the end is because Jason killed his mom. And
okay.
He's right. But we never see the mom get killed. We never see them find her body. None of that ever happened. What is this? Who are you? Stop calling.
Oh my God, you're so popular.
I'm so done. None of that. Thank you. Goodbye. Weird.
Oh my God, is it Jason?
It's not Jason. So there's no big emotional scene where oh my God, they killed mom. That would be a huge thing for the 11-year-old boy to find his. No, he's not. Whatever. But he is fascinated with the idea of Jason. So at the end, when Jason is trying to stop running, they're running back and forth between the two houses, trying to get Jason to follow, to lose him, whatever. And eventually Tracy's Trish says to the kid, she says, Tommy, I'm going to get him to chase me over there. When I do, you run into the woods, try and find the road and get help. Okay? So she does, and Jason follows her, and then she finds more murdered people that we thought weren't murdered yet or whatever, and then it follows her back into the house, and Tommy is there, still in the house. Trish, is that you? Tommy, you were supposed to leave. And then so she's trying to fight him off or whatever. And we see in the bathroom, standing on a little stool because he's short, with pinups of Jason at the end of part 1, where the little boy jumps up out of the lake in a dream sequence. There's a picture of that in a news clipping. Nobody knows what Jason looked like. There were no pictures of him. But there's a news clipping photograph of him in a dream sequence, right? That the kid is looking at. It's taped up on the side of the mirror in the bathroom as he is using scissors to cut his hair and then a razor to bald himself, but leaving patches of hair like in the news clipping of a dream sequence shows Jason to be. Then he comes down the stairs and he's got little tufts of hair all over his bald head. And he's like, Jason, do you remember me? And then the killer with the hockey mask turns around and sees a little boy that has butchered his haircut, and I guess is transfixed by the image of himself as a boy, but there's no photos of himself. Like, is he remembering 30 years ago when he looked into a mirror? Because like he hasn't looked like this is a very important thing. That this is how he is killed in this movie, because he is so dumb. This dumb heel syndrome turns around and is distracted by a little boy who shaved his head to look like a picture he saw in a news clipping of a dream sequence that nobody has seen. And he altered his appearance to kind of look like him so that he would distract Jason long enough for Trish to kill him, to get the machete and hit him in the back of the head with the machete. But all that does is sever the little straps that hold on the hockey mask. That falls away and shows how horribly deformed he is, and that makes her scream. So then she drops the machete, and then Corey Feldman, 11-year-old Corey Feldman, bald with tufts of hair, runs down and picks up the machete, gets Jason to turn around, and he hits him, boom, right here. Just drives. He hits him one time with a machete, and it goes all the way halfway into his whole face, right? And this is one of the most like clever, not right, but gruesome as an idea, that he falls forward and the handle hits the ground and like drives the whole thing up into his brain or whatever. Yeah, it's better. So he's killed him. He's dead, right? So Trish is like, "Oh, Tommy, thank you. You saved my life." And Tommy's hugging his sister, and like there's a little twitch of one of the fingers that's probably just, neurons firing in the brain. So then he picks up the machete and just hacks at the body of the dead thing. Die! 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 That's it. That's the end of 4. Corey Feldman, 11-year-old Corey Feldman, hacked him into bits.
That feels, now that you said that about like the most brutal killings being out, that feels like that was supposed to be correlate to how his mom was murdered, right?
Right. Probably.
And so it was something that we never actually saw.
Yeah. So Johnson Charles, just down with the first one. Doesn't need confidence. Does it get better from this point, or all the way is down? It's a plateau for a while, and then it gets wacky. That's all I'm gonna say. 5 starts out with Corey Feldman going to see the grave of Jason Voorhees, and then he sees he hears two grave robbers coming. And he hides in the bushes during a horrible rainstorm, and the grave robbers dig up Jason, who then comes back to life and kills the grave robbers, and then somehow is able to see him hiding in the bushes and walks over to him, and he looks up and he's sure he's going to be killed, and then he wakes up, and now he's teenage. He's a different guy, supposed to be older. Tommy Jarvis looks nothing like Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman was like 12 or 13, and this guy's supposed to be 18, and they have a completely different face shape. They're like, it's just a weird one. Like, hire somebody who kind of looks like whatever. He is being taken because he lost his mind by having this trauma happen to him. They never mentioned the sister. I don't know if she like wrote him off or whatever, but she's like never mentioned in 5. But he goes to like a halfway house for mentally damaged kids. And there are a lot of different kinds of mentally damaged kids there. But this basically like it's a new wave thing of this psychiatrist there who like allows them to come and go as they please, whatever. He's trying to like get them to buy into their rehabilitation as opposed to forcing them to stay or whatever. And they've tried everything with this kid, Tommy Jarvis, so let's give it a shot. Why not? His first day there, a rotund guy, fat guy who's got lots of candy bars in his pockets because fat guy, is just really annoying. Like he's trying to help these two girls hang up the sheets to dry, but he's got chocolate on his fingers, and so now they got to rewash the sheets, and they yell at him, and then he goes over and talks to Vic, who's a bigger dude who's got an axe, who's just chopping away at like a tree stump for fun, I guess. And he annoys Vic to the point where Vic chops him to pieces. He loses his mind and goes crazy. Now, the cops come and take Vic away, and then the paramedics show up to look at the body of the kid who got chopped up. And one of them is like, they'd never seen a little blood before. Come on, Roy, let's go over here. Let's look at this spot. And they lift up the body, and he's all hacked up to pieces. One of his arms is like chopped clean off or whatever. And Roy is like, he has to like throw up. Whatever. You're a pussy, says that paramedic. So then, after that, there's a couple of guys on the road who like run into car trouble. They get killed. Some campers out having sex in the woods, they get killed. And then one by one, the people who run this halfway house, who are patients there, who the people who run it, they get killed until it's just like the second psychiatrist there and Tommy and like the little boy who was the grandson of the old guy who like makes the meals there. He was like visiting his grandpa for the weekend or whatever. They're the only ones who are still left, and they're running around, and Jason is stalking them. There's a guy who's got a hockey mask, and he's Jason. He's stalking them everywhere, killing everybody. Eventually it comes down to just those 3 people left. And then Tommy is able to throw him out the top floor of a barn window onto like threshing equipment, so he like lands and just gets impaled by all that stuff. And that's that. At
least there was a motive back,
right? But but the thing is, we're trying to find out who could this be, right? And then they never really show it to us. They just have the sheriff come and talk to the psychiatrist lady in the hospital. Suspect number 1, of course, is Tommy, because he's the one who went crazy. He's attached to the whole Jason thing, whatever. But it turns out it was Roy, the paramedic, and the kid who was chopped up at the halfway house was his estranged son. And And because of that, it broke his brain, and he was going to kill everybody, they say, who he felt was responsible for the murder of his child. But we know who that is. It's Vic. It's the guy who chopped up with an axe. That guy got taken into custody. Like, wait for his court date and kill him then if you feel like you got to kill somebody. But also, they killed a bunch of like randos, like just the guys who ran into car trouble, the hikers. Like, it's all a bunch of red herrings to make you think like it's not related, but it just ends up being one of the paramedics who did it. And this side does not seem like. I guess it would be interesting to see any kind of change in him or whatever, but he also had like two scenes that weren't him under the mask. But anyway, like, this was supposed to be the beginning of a trilogy. This first one was supposed to be the beginning of this thing, because at the end, it is heavily implied that this secondary trauma has broken Tommy Jarvis, and Tommy Jarvis is now going to become Jason, because at the very end of the film, he is wearing a hockey mask, and it is implied that he is going to stab psychiatrist lady. And they were going to like start a new trilogy of things with Tommy Jarvis now being Jason, taking over the mantle of Jason because he killed Jason and then eventually he broke his brain or whatever. Number six says that movie didn't exist.
Never happened.
Never happened. The movie number 6 is the greatest beginning of a film as opposed to the end, because new actor playing Tommy Jarvis is driving with his friend, played by the actor who played Horshack on Welcome Back, Kotter, in a weird bit of stunt casting that is never repeated throughout the rest of, like, everyone who sees Ron Palillo in the mid 80s goes, that's Horshack. He's only one guy, so you cast him because everyone's going to think it was him, but no. Anyway, the guy who played Tommy Jarvis in Part 5, when they were making Part 5 and casting it, they were telling people that it was a slasher film or whatever. It had all these elements to it, but nobody saw a real script until they showed up to work. And so everyone was like, "Oh, it's a Friday the 13th." Tommy Jarvis was hired to play a guy who had committed a brutal self-defense murder when he was a kid, and then as a young adult trying to like get. So he went and like after he was cast, spent weeks like shadowing people at a mental institution to like try and figure out how to get into the mind of these people. And then he shows up to work and he's like, "It's Friday the 13th, Part 5, surprise!" So they asked him to come back and do Part 6, and he was like, "No, screw you, I'm not doing that."
Yeah, no way.
Anyway, so they get a new guy to play him in Part 6, and his thing is now, because Part 5 never happened,
right?
I'm going to go and dig up the corpse of Jason from when I killed him when I was a little boy. And I am going to burn his body and cremate it so that he goes to hell. Because, again, in this one, he's also not quite all there. So he and his buddy, Hawes, Arnold Horshack, escaped their separate mental institution to come and do this. And so he digs him up. He's horribly decomposed, and he just goes crazy. He runs over to a metal fence, rips off a metal fence post, and stabs the body of Jason a whole bunch of times, and then leaves this big, tall metal spike stabbed through his heart, and says, "All right, now let's burn him." And I'm like, I feel like you sent him into hell. If he wasn't dead already, you stabbed him a bunch of times in the heart.
I don't know. He does keep coming back. I feel like,
but anyway, at this point, to him, he's like, "Oh, I forgot the gasoline in the truck. Let me go back to the truck." And while he's going back to the truck, lightning hits the spike through his heart, which brings him back to life, and now he's Franken Jason, and he immediately kills Horshack, and
Jason,
and throws him into the coffin, which then closes. And then he's just chasing Tommy Jarvis, the kid who killed him years ago, and he is now a mindless zombie killing machine. He's no longer a human of any kind. So that now we're starting to getting like crazy stuff that's happening.
Okay.
And random people that he just meets on the road and kills anyway because he doesn't have any motivations for anything, just kills him. So this one I will say is the best written of the group of part 6. Like the dialogue is interesting and funny and has like there's some nuance to it. It feels like a movie that was written 10 years later when all the dialogue was like influenced by Tarantino, so it was all snappy and like everybody's got a comeback, everyone's got a riff on something, and it was interesting. Like it was like there was a lot of it was just very boring dialogue. This one actually had dialogue that crackled and it never repeated for the rest of the franchise. It was only this one thing, this one guy who wrote the script, and they never went back to it. But this one deals with the sheriff. They're starting up. Oh, this is what this one was. In this movie, and crucially, only in this movie, it changes back in the rest of the franchise. They have said, we changed the name of this town from Crystal Lake to Forest Green. So nobody will remember that, nobody will think that this is the town where all those murders happened. And so you coming into this town and stirring up all this old business, that makes us really upset because it's not Crystal Lake anymore. It's Forest Green. Spoiler alert for movie 7, 8, 9, and 10. It's all back to Crystal Lake again. I don't know why they changed it back.
That's
like,
a clever
no
idea though, of like to be like, it kind of killed our tourism when everybody knew us as the murder town.
Right. So now they're reopening, not Camp Crystal Lake, Camp Forest Green, where all the where the big counselor's going to come there, and a lot of kids like between the ages of like 8 to 11. All right, like these are like younger kids, the same age that I guess Jason was when he died, but they're there. They're supposed to get there, and so the two head counselors, they are the first ones killed by Jason on the road in the woods going to the thing. Right.
Sure.
The woman of the two who is killed, her sister is another counselor. It's like, hey, my sister hasn't shown up yet. I wonder where she is. Oh, well, guess I'll never bring that up for the rest of the movie that takes place over the next 3 or 4 days. Like, your sister is a few hours late, fine. Your sister hasn't shown up the next morning. Speaking to you as a woman who has a sister, you start to get worried. Several days go by, and she's just, oh, well, better just tend to these children. Like, she's not at all freaked out where her sister is at all. So there's only one. There was supposed to be 2 male counselors and 4 female counselors, but there's an equal number of boys and girls. I'm gonna figure that out. Anyway, so Jason now is a killing machine who's just trying to like exterminate all the counselors. He doesn't kill any of the kids. Good for Jason. No women, no kids. Well, women, definitely women, but no kids.
No kids.
Can't kill kids. So that's good, I guess. But one of the counselors is the daughter of the local sheriff, and she's a rebel, and the sheriff's trying to rein her in. She's got the hots for the crazy guy, Tommy Jarvis, and she thinks he's probably full of shit, but he's so cute. Dad, don't worry about it. It's cool. So it's just basically comes down to the two of them trying to kill Jason. And he thinks that Tommy does. The only way to really kill him is to return him to him where he should be, at the bottom of the lake. So his big plan is to somehow get Jason in a boat to the bottom of the lake and tie one end of a chain around his neck and the other end of a chain around a boulder. And that's his big plan. But it requires him to like wait until the entire police force of that town has been killed, including the girl's father, the sheriff. And all the counselors have been killed. And a lot of other people have been killed. And finally, it's like, Jason, I'm the one you want. You know it. Like, if he's the one you want, he would have killed you a long time ago. He killed a lot of people. Follow me out into the water, Jason. And there is a cool thing where, like, he's out in the middle of the lake, and Jason just walks into the lake, and eventually goes under. And, like, you don't know where he is.
Oh, and that's so creepy and cool.
Yeah, that was actually kind of creepy. And of course, because I know this, he's looking around Where is he? I'm gonna put this chain around his neck and then throw this boulder out of the thing, and I will win. He's looking around with his noose that he's fashioned from this chain, and of course, from behind is Jason. And so they fight on this rowboat. Eventually he's able to, the rowboat sinks, which means the boulder sinks, and he's able to get the thing around Jason, which means Jason sinks. But as Jason is sinking, he grabs Tommy's leg and he's going to pull him down to the depths of the lake, and Jason drowns. Not really, because here comes Megan, the sheriff's daughter, in a little outboard motorboat, and she comes over there and tries to, she dives in to save him, pulls him up on the boat, and then she uses the outboard motor to cut into Jason's neck, and then he drops. He's just laying there. He's asleep. He's dead. He's awake because his eye is still looking around because he's a zombie, So his eye is still looking around, but it's fine. It's fine. Jason's dead. End of movie. We killed him. No, we didn't. He's still alive under the thing, but he's fine. He's attached to a chain, which is attached to a boulder at the bottom of the lake. Surely there's no way for him to get out. Part 7. Part 7 starts with a little girl who has telekinetic powers. Why? How we know this? Because her father is an abusive alcoholic who is hitting her mother, and then runs out, say, I'm sorry. Why have you taken this boat out to the middle of this lake that we have a cabin on? You should not do that. Please come back to the dock. No, I hate you. I wish you were dead. And then the dock that he is on explodes and collapses and buries him under a whole bunch of rubble at the bottom of the lake, very near to the shore of the lake. Nobody recovers his body, which is integral to the end of the film, but seems suspect. So this is now 10 years later. The movie takes place in current day in 1980 or whatever, but then there's time jumps of 10 years twice, but still takes place in 1989. You figure that part out, because that's the thing I don't understand. Is there Jason drowned in 1957, 32 years ago. But that's not possible because we had a time jump from Corey Feldman of 6 years till he became Tommy Jarvis.
Right.
And then after Tommy Jarvis dropped him in the lake, we had a time jump of 12 years. So almost 20 years have gone by. Now she's a teenage girl with crazy powers. But they're still saying it was 32 years ago when he was put in the lake, because that's not... Time doesn't work that way.
Correct.
If you're going to have a time jump, you have to account for that, and you're telling this. But anyway, so she is brought back by her mother to her old cabin where she was living when she murdered her father accidentally because she was a little kid, didn't know any better, with her telekinetic powers, and she's been in and out of institutions, and so she is brought there by her psychiatrist, played by Terry Kaiser, the guy who played Bernie in Weekend at Bernie's, the guy who played Count Spretzel in Mannequin 2, the guy who played the mad scientist, whatever the hell his name was, in Tammy and the T-Rex. We cannot seem to get rid of this guy. He is in everything.
He follows us everywhere. But he's really good.
He is using her as an ulterior motive to write a book about her to sell, to become rich and famous as a psychiatrist who so he's trying to get her to go crazier because that's better for his book, I guess. Anyway, she has a psychotic break and she runs out to the dock, which has been rebuilt. They rebuilt the dock that exploded, but did not fish her father's body out of the 8-foot deep water.
Maybe it was just a nobody missed him thing.
Yeah. Death, listen, I appreciate it. Don't inject your logic in my horror movies. Less logic, the better. Are you new here? I can't do it. This is not, can't do it. I can't do it. I wish I could. She feels really bad at this moment for having killed her father, who let's not forget, was a horrible, abusive alcoholic who beat up his mom. You hit mom again. You promised you wouldn't the last time, and you promised you wouldn't do it again the time before that. So he is a serial abusive alcoholic. And she kills him. Probably shouldn't have done that, but also she just wants her daddy back. So she tries to, like, she uses all of her mind powers. If what this doctor is saying is about me is true, all I have to do is concentrate and think really hard about something. And so she's like, basically what she does is she thinks really hard about a person who is dead at the bottom of the lake and bringing them back to life. Oh, but wouldn't you know it? Hold on. I don't have it anywhere. I don't know. Where's my monkey's paw? There it is. I want somebody at the bottom of the lake who is dead to come back to life. And the monkey's paw says, you should have been more specific, because Jason comes back to life and then decides he's going to kill everybody all around the lake.
Like, good for her for, like, manifesting, right? We love that. But, like, yeah, be a little more specific in your ask next time.
Yeah. So there's also, wouldn't you know it, across the street, there's a cabin full of partying teenagers.
No way.
Yeah. They rented the lake and they were going to do a surprise party for a guy named Mike for his birthday party. But he gets killed by Jason on the way to the lake when he has car trouble. Man, should not have car trouble near Camp Crystal Lake. I mean, Camp Forest Green. I mean, Camp Crystal Lake.
AAA needs to, like, step up their game right there. Yeah.
Right there. So he and his girlfriend get killed. So they never show up to the party. And again, the party rages one night, and the next morning they all wake up and go, Mike never showed up. That's weird. Oh, he probably just got a DUI again. He'll show up eventually. That's what they say. So there's a bunch of just
like, they weren't even like, maybe he was killed in a drunk driving accident because he clearly has a problem.
Yeah. There's athlete Ben's girlfriend Kate. Both of them are killed.
There I go. There's rest in peace.
Stoner guy, and then these two girls who are fighting over Stoner guy because they think he's cute. One girl is like perky and dumb, and the other one is smart and bookish and has glasses. And it'll get which one does the Stoner go for? It's not the smart bookish one, but all of them end up dead. There's a doubly dumb part where the smart bookish one goes up into the room to, like, I'll show you, and she puts her hair down, she takes off her glasses, she puts on makeup and a little low-cut dress, and she's like, I'm gonna get David for myself. And then she walks outside and goes, David, are you out here? All she had to do was walk into the living room that she had to have passed to get outside, and would have seen David in the living room dancing with Robin, the other one. And she had to have, like, bypassed every section of the inside of the house to get outside, to then see the door of the barn close and go, David must be in the barn. I'll go in the barn. Oops, I'm dead. Like, some of this, they start to get really dumb. There's snobby girl who really hates Trish because the guy that she wants has the hots for Trish. There's what? I guess it wasn't the one before. There was a guy who showed up, I believe, in part 4, who I actually liked the idea of, because he believed that Jason had murdered his little sister, and so he was there to get revenge on Jason. And of course, Jason killed him anyway. But I liked that there was, like, a continuity of, like, somebody that appeared in part 2 was, like, her older brother was there to, like, kill Jason in part 4. I kind of like that. That's cool. Nice. But they never really paid off on it, of course. Anyway, all these kids, they all get killed in different ways. Then it's just down to her, to the telekinetic girl, because her mom has been killed, and the psychiatrist, Dr. Terry Kaiser, Dr. Bernie. Dr. Bernie's been killed. He does not come back to life, but he does.
I was going to say, at least when he's dead, maybe he's like, dancing.
No, he does die cross-eyed. When he is killed by a tree limb cutting chainsaw. You ever see one of those, like it's like super extended, like 15 feet long, and it's got a little spinning saw blade at the end? Like when I was saying, like, he finds new gardening implements to kill people.
Yeah.
Like he walks into the woods with this 15-foot long pole with a saw blade at the end, and he slices up Dr. Bernie with it. And then Dr. Bernie falls over and does this. Like he dies with his tongue out and his nose and his eyes looking his nose, and nobody was like, okay, I know you're the funny guy, but can we figure out a way so it doesn't look funny when you die?
He's like,
anyway,
nope, marquee deaths are my thing. Sorry.
This is where we get what they pitched the movie as: Stephen King's Carrie versus Jason, a telekinetic teenage girl who can move things with her mind and set things on fire with her mind and all this kind of stuff against Jason. And I was like, all right, you got something here, because the rest of the movie was interesting, of like her trying to use her mind to like, she tied him up with vines, and then like the vines pulled him face down into an ankle deep puddle. And then she like snapped some like electrical wires and stuck them into the thing and electrocuted him, which is a cool idea. But then he got up. You know,
it should be like a slam dunk because he's pretty slow, right? Right. No, but this is where he's a zombie now. But like, and he walks, but also he can just show up places. But there's a lot of times where like people will be running in this direction from him behind them, and they'll get to a car and he's right there. Like, they just do that now because he's supernatural. So anyway, the fight between the two of them ends up with, Jason's hockey mask comes off and he's horribly deformed in a completely different way than we've ever seen before. They do that a lot in the later movies. Like, he doesn't look like Jason. None, all of the art directors and makeup directors have a different idea of what Jason's supposed to look like. It's just, if the hockey mask is the same, but like what the back of his head looks like is different. It used to be just bald. Then it was like bald with tufts of hair. Then when he was the zombie the first time, it was like green, like decayed flesh. And then one time, I think at 9, he had like long wispy hair coming out the back of his head. And then in 10, he's just got like a little mini afro. Like, I don't know why, but like they just changed it up on a lot. Experimenting with Rogaine. Yeah,
a lot of it. Okay, hold on. I want to make sure I'm hold on. Where's dang it, Wikipedia. Okay. Okay. So yes. This is what it is. I didn't mean to do that. Boop. So this is what it is. She goes out to the dock. Okay. She in the basement, she opens the furnace and like she uses her mind to like open the spray nozzle of a can of gasoline, spray it all over him, and then uses her mind to open the door of the furnace and send fire out of the furnace to light him on fire. And then they run away as the house explodes, her and the guy who's got the hots for her. Those are the only two that are left. And they run away and then take a U-turn. And then they take a U-turn and they dive onto the dock, which is actually closer to the house than if they had just kept running into the woods. But they have to be on the dock, you understand? Because Jason has to come up through the dock and attack her. Like, he got blown out of the house into the thing, but he was on fire, but now he's in the water, so he's okay. But she uses her brain power to resurrect her dead father from the bottom of the lake under this thing. And her zombie father jumps out of the lake, grabs Jason, and pulls him down into the water again. And that's the end of the movie. So she brings her dead father, who a body was never recovered from 8 feet of water. And he comes up and he has not decomposed at all. He's been dead for a dozen years. He's not decomposed at all. And he pulls Jason under the ground into the water, and the dock again collapses and buries them both.
So it's supposed to be like his little redemption is that he saves his daughter's life and then he dies again.
I don't know. That's part 7. We never meet that girl again. She's gone. She actually wrote a sequel where she had moved on to like trying to help other kids with special abilities. Like she was like her own Professor X, and Jason hunts her down to get revenge. And like she like has trained all these other kids to use psychic abilities, and they help her fight off Jason. Like that was a script that she wrote to be in it again. And they were like, yeah, now we're just gonna have him take a boat to New York. And that was their big deal. They're like, nah, we're gonna have to take a boat to New York. It'll be cheaper. Because it is. They filmed the whole thing in Canada, except for like 3 or 4 scenes that took place in Times Square. Everything else was filmed in Vancouver, BC. All of the New York people. There's one cop who they talked to. Is like, it sure is a great thing I found you guys, eh? Like it's just the most Canadian accent ever that they got for a guy who played a New York cop. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, so the anchor is dropped off a houseboat of 2 teenagers who are having sex in Crystal Lake. And the anchor strikes an underground power cable, which, because it's so close to Jason, electrifies him. He wakes up, climbs aboard the houseboat, kills the sexy couple, and then that houseboat apparently like floats downriver. We had nobody's ever just described to me. Nobody's ever talked about the idea that Crystal Lake is like a lot of lakes feed into rivers, but it's never been mentioned before. If Crystal Lake was that. So apparently the houseboat floats all the way downriver till it gets to the ocean. I'm assuming in like Connecticut. I don't know where Crystal Lake is supposed to be, but the graduating class of Crystal Lake High School, which consists of 12 children, so it's a very small school, or maybe they're the only ones who could afford to go, or they're the only ones who like were selected in a random drawing. It's the graduating class, Crystal Lake High School, are taking a cruise to New York on a like a very small little cruise ship. Jason Takes Manhattan is the name of this thing. That's for the last 25 minutes of the movie. The rest of the movie is Jason takes a boat ride. Like they should have called it Jason Takes a Boat Ride. Like it was. This is bad.
This was
like
misleading.
Jason. This is bad. It would have been great if the whole movie, if they had the money to shoot the movie in New York, and like there's a homicidal maniac who can't be killed on the loose streets of Manhattan
in the 80s. Yeah.
But no, that's not what this is. He kills people on a boat. Crystal Lake's supposed to be in New Jersey.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, girl who's not brave enough to watch this.
So he kills a bunch of people on a boat. What you need to know is that there is the girl who's the final girl has visions. They've never explained why. I guess it was because that's why. She had a traumatic experience where she nearly drowned in Crystal Lake. And she thought she saw a boy under the water while she was down there. And nobody believed her. And so now she has to, come out after this thing. So she's trying to get over her fear of the water by taking a boat trip. And her uncle, who's the principal of the school and a total a-hole, is the one in charge of this. They only brought 2 chaperones. The English teacher, who's nice, and the principal, who's a horrible person. And everyone gets killed. The people you have to know about are a champion boxer in high school. This high school has 12 seniors and a boxing team. This is a champion boxer. So he's there. The boyfriend of Rennie, who's the main character, his name is Sean. And then he kills everybody on the boat. He starts a fire in the engine room, which makes the boat sink. They get on a rowboat life raft and they're able to get there. Okay. So it's the teachers who are left, the final girl, her boyfriend, and the boxer guy. The boxer guy is only there so that when Jason follows them, swims, I guess, to New York and follows them, and they all split up trying because Rennie gets kidnapped by 2 drug dealers who are obviously going to rape her after they shoot her up full of heroin. And they actually do try to do that. But let's split up and try and find her. And so the boxer guy is the first guy to get found by Jason, and he runs up to a rooftop, and he's a boxer. He's like, okay, I'm gonna box Jason. And so he tires himself out punching Jason so many times in the hockey mask, which I feel like would hurt your hands.
Yeah, real bad.
And he tires himself out so much after punching him so much. He's like, okay, motherfucker, take your best shot. This is the best kill in the whole franchise. Jason hits him with one left hook, which knocks his head clean off the top of the roof and into a dumpster, and the dumpster closes.
That rules.
Yeah. So then he's able to, so the girl keeps having visions of this boy all over the place. The boy from the lake. And at one point she is driving, they steal a cop car because the cop got killed. Oh, sorry, I got killed, eh? So they steal his cop car, and they're gonna drive away in it. And then she sees Jason, so she speeds up, she's gonna run him over. And then the vision changes from Jason to the little boy Jason from the lake, and then she gets so weirded out that she forgets to use the brakes and slams into a brick wall, which I guess knocks out the English teacher because she can't get out of the car, and the car explodes and she's incinerated. So then she has a vision of what happened. See, her uncle, the mean principal, threw her out of the boat to teach her how to swim. And that's when she saw Jason, but he never believed her that her parents because her parents died in a car accident, and that's so he's her legal guardian. So like she lives with him, and then when she was like a little girl, like 10, he's like, I'll teach her how to swim. I'm gonna throw you out of this boat, and I'm not gonna help you. That's what he did. So so they leave him there. So now Sean and Rennie are running away from Jason. Jason drowns him in an open vat of toxic waste that just like lives on the street in New York. New York is I don't know if you know this. New York is just chock-a-block full of vats of toxic waste everywhere in 1989. So
explains a lot about the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, it does. A lot of ooze. So they end up running away from him into a diner. Like this, you got to help us. We got to use your phone. I can't use this phone, but you can use the payphone in the back. Well, you could if it wasn't broke. Says the waitress. And says, "You got to help us. There's this madman, a psycho killer. She's after us. He's trying to kill us." And she goes, "Welcome to New York." And I'm like, okay, fine.
That's pretty cool.
So he chases them through the diner down into the sewers, and they run into the sewers. He's chasing through the sewers. They meet a sewer worker. It's like, "Hey, what are you kids doing down here? It's almost midnight. Don't you know that at midnight every night the sewer floods with toxic waste?"
Don't you idiots know that?
Come on, I'll take you to the way out of here. Oopsie daisy, there's Jason. I'm dead now. And so Jason kills him with his own wrench. That's a tough way to go. And then they're climbing out, and Jason's trying to climb after them, but she throws toxic waste in his face, like a little bucket of toxic waste in Jason's face. And he takes off the mask, and his face is just horribly, like, even more deformed than ever, and it's now being melted by the toxic waste. And then he's down there, and the toxic waste is coming. It's flooding toward him. He looks at it, and he opens his mouth, and he just vomits green water. Like it's the water that he inhaled when he drowned all those years ago. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. And then he's washed over by the toxic waste. They are between 6 inches and 2 feet above the toxic waste, which is caustic enough to melt all the flesh off of Jason's body, but not caustic enough to like have fumes that would whatever. When the water goes away and recedes, not just Rennie, but also her boyfriend look down and see the unconscious, not deformed corpse of the 11-year-old boy. And they look down and they see him and they go, all right, that sounds right. And they climb back up out of the way and they walk away and they're fine. Her dog came with her on the trip and they thought the dog drowned. When they thought the dog ran away when they got to New York, and they found the dog in Times Square. And so it's a happy ending. They found the dog. And Jason is he's in a sewer in Manhattan. He may or may not have been transformed back into an 11-year-old boy corpse.
You know.
But that's the end of part 8. Part 9 came with an edict. We don't want to see Jason anymore. We want it to be about Jason, but the mask. Really? Do we have to see the mask? Just, this is the thing. The producer said, whatever you do, get him out of that stupid mask. Because the producer thinks that the mask is not the whole franchise, which it is.
Yeah.
This one starts with a woman driving to an old cabin on Crystal Lake by herself. She gets there. She pulls the string on the light bulb. The light bulb burns out. She's got to go out to the shed. She got to find a light bulb. She does that. There's a lot of, here's where he's going to show up, and he doesn't. Like at one point, she takes a shower. He doesn't kill her in the shower, but she gets out of the shower and she brushes her hair, and she drops the brush. And she reaches down to get it. And we think when she stands back up, he'll be in the mirror, but he's not there. So they do that for 5 minutes. And then eventually he is there. And he does get a slashing blow across her abdomen. But then she runs away. And she runs away and he follows her and he runs and they run. She gets to a clearing and he comes up and he walks up next to her. And then they're like, Agent Marcus, get down. She does this backflip out of the way, and there's a giant SWAT team of 30 guys who just open up with all kinds of guns on Jason in the middle of this clearing in the forest. There's giant spotlights that come on him, and they go, incoming! And we're supposed to believe that there's an airstrike. Like a bomber went over and dropped a missile onto him, which blew him into a whole bunch of pieces. And that's how the movie starts. Jason goes to hell the final Friday, and the coroner is in there talking about the pieces of Jason, talking about who Jason was. Thank God he's dead, but he doesn't look great right now. And for some reason, when he exploded, his heart landed separate from the rest of his body, so his heart's in a little petri dish. And he starts looking at the heart, and it's like he's shaking off things being told to him by the heart, which is now beating. And then all of a sudden he runs over and takes a giant bite of the heart. He just eats the heart. Because the heart told him to. And now he is possessed by the soul of Jason. And the way he is able to pass on the soul of Jason from him to other people is by French kissing them. And because he is Jason, he is a mindless killing machine. So he kills some guards at this facility. He kills another coroner. He kills a woman and kidnaps a cop in Crystal Lake. And then he French kisses the cop, and now the cop is Jason. But the cop is also because he's a deputy, one of the oldest deputies of the sheriff, who's in love with, spoiler alert, well, not spoiler alert, Jason had a half sister. And if Jason, this is all known by some bounty hunter who knows all about Jason. There in the original script, apparently, one of his relatives was killed by Jason, so he spent his entire life trying to track him down, and now he knows everything about him. But he only is a very famous bounty hunter to get money to aid him in the tracking down of Jason. Whatever. Only if Jason can, if one of the Jason possessed people can French kiss, because that's basically what it is. There's a weird black tongue thing that comes out of the mouth. It's really gruesome. And that is what French kisses. That's how it is. It's mouth to mouth. So if he can possess one of his blood relatives, he will be immortal again. That's the deal. So he's trying to find his half sister, who is dating the sheriff, and so she thinks nothing of it when one of the sheriff's deputies shows up at her house, but he's possessed by Jason. And then her daughter's estranged boyfriend and baby daddy shows up and helps to drive off the kill him. Like, she shoots the deputy in the head, and he's okay because he's possessed by Jason. So then the guy Steven, who I think is supposed to be like just out of high school because he wears a Letterman's jacket, but he is at least 35 years old, the actor playing him. It's very distracting. And so he has a fist fight with possessed Jason deputy who knocks him out the window. He's got to be dead, right? I stabbed him with a red hot poker from the fireplace. He's got to be dead. But then the sheriff shows up because they kill Jason is able to accidentally, because I think he wanted her alive, kill his half sister woman. And then the sheriff shows up and blames Steven, and so arrests him. And Steven is in the lockup with the bounty hunter guy who insulted the sheriff, and he's black, so he got arrested. So he tells him all about this stuff, and like, hey, not only can, if Jason can be reborn through a blood relative, he also can only be actually killed by a blood relative. And so his half sisters, so his niece, Jason's half niece, is still running around out there, and Jason's half niece has a little baby. So there's two more things for Jason to get in. Anyway, so Deputy Jason now uses French kisses Jason's half niece's new boyfriend, who is like the most famous tabloid journalist in America. And he's trying to exploit his relationship with Jason's half niece to like do like a Geraldo style. We're gonna open up the vault inside Jason's mom's house or something. I don't know. But anyway, he gets possessed, and now he's after everybody, and he spends most of the movie as Jason. This is bad. This is a really, really bad movie. It has nothing to do with Jason. Eventually, Jason is able to possess the dead corpse of the mom of his half sister, and then comes back to life as full Jason for 4 minutes until he is stabbed with a magic dagger that is only able to be magic if it's being wielded by a relative of his. So his half niece stabs him with a magic dagger, and then their giant ashen hands come up out of the ground and grab him and drag him down to hell. Literally, the name of the movie is Jason Goes to Hell. At the end of it, he does. He is pulled down to hell. He's pulled down to hell. Now, at this point, they are desperately trying to find a way to do a crossover movie between Jason and Freddy. Jason and Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th. They're trying to make a crossover movie, okay? So at the end of this thing, you just see Jason's mask still at the top, has not been fully dragged down. Just the mask is still there, okay? And then at the very end of the movie, Freddy Krueger's hand pops up out of the ground, grabs the mask, and drags it down to hell. And everyone's like, oh, that's awesome. This is 1993. I can't wait until a maximum of 2 years from now when we're going to get that awesome Freddy versus Jason movie. And it was just in development hell for another 10 years.
That's crazy.
And so in 2001, we get Jason X, subtitled by me, Jason Goes to Space, which Jason was in hell. He was dragged to hell. He starts in Jason 10. He is kept prisoner in a secret government research facility, which just so happens to be right next to Crystal Lake. They captured him. Apparently, they tried to kill him in different ways to execute him, and it never worked. He just kept coming back to life. So, like, let's hold on to him. Maybe like, at least he's not out there. So he's in the basement of a giant facility, and they say, and so the plan, I guess, is to freeze him forever in a he can't get out, cryostasis. But looks like the cryostasis scientist lady, she's been overruled by head of the department scientist guy, who is going to give him to the military so they can run tests on him, because if they can diagnose how he cannot be killed, they can create a giant legion of super soldiers. But wouldn't you know it, Jason escapes from his straitjacket and all the chains he's in and kills all the soldiers, and then chases the doctor, Dr. Rowan, hot Canadian doctor, because this was all filmed in Toronto. So it's all these people that if you ever see, there's a lot of movies that they film in Toronto in the 90s and early 2000s, and they all have the same actors in them. And so you're like, hey, I know that guy. I don't know his name at all, but I know he was in this thing.
I remember him.
Yeah. So Dr. Rowan gets a shotgun from one of the fallen soldiers and leads him into the cryostasis chamber, where she outsmarts him and then shoots him once in the chest, which knocks him back into the cryo thing, and she shuts it. Oh, I should mention, she kills all these guys who have guns, and then all of a sudden he has a machete. I don't know where he got the machete from, but there probably shouldn't have been a machete within miles of his prison that he was in. But he's got a machete, so she closes the door and she's like, "Got you, you son of a bitch!" And then he stabs her through the door of a giant, very thick metal pod that he's in as he's being frozen. And because there's a hole in it, a bunch of the chemicals, the freeze-seal chemicals, are coming out, and so there's an automatic lockdown of the room she's in. So she gets frozen and he gets frozen. Cut to the year 2455. It's now 450 years in the future. Earth is uninhabitable, but people from Earth 2 come down to do tests and stuff. And so they're coming down like, what is this facility? Oh my goodness. And so they're a bunch of, wouldn't you know it, horny teenage students.
No way.
From 2455 and their teacher, who find this thing. They find her. They determine that she is still alive and can be salvaged. They find him, who's in his stasis thing. They open him up, but he's still frozen solid. And there's an android with them, KM. She's played by Lisa Ryder, who looks so much like Zooey Deschanel. I was like, it can't be, and it's not, but it has to be. Like they're twins. And so she's the android, and like, everybody know what this thing is that he's wearing? The teacher says to the students, and they go, I don't know, it's a hockey mask. What's hockey? And she says, barbaric sport outlawed in 2020. Barbaric winter sport played on ice with sticks, outlawed in 2024. And I was like, so sorry, everybody out there who's a fan of hockey. You only got one more year.
And
then it's gone forever.
Yep.
It's gone forever. So like, let's bring him onto a spaceship too. I mean, we can't. He's obviously dead under all that frozen ice. Let's bring him onto the spaceship too, along with the girl we found, because we think we can revive her. So they do revive her because they have nanobots that can repair her having been stabbed. And so the nanobots can repair anything. At one point, like, Jason's arm, like the machete falls from his hand and just lops off one of the students' arm, like above the elbow. And like, I was like, stop your crying. We'll fix it when we get back to the ship. And they just reattach his arm with nanobots. So anyway, there's a bunch of space marines on board this ship, because of course there are, because it's an aliens knockoff. And they hate being babysitters for these kids on a science expedition. I didn't join the Corps to be a babysitter, Sarge. Like, there's a bunch of that kind of crap. Did you join the Corps to be murdered by a thought out psycho zombie killer? Because that's what's going to happen to you. So he thaws out because they're running tests on him. He immediately kills the person who's working on him. Then he goes, I don't know, does he have a sixth sense? Two of these like teenage science students are in a relationship and they are having sex. And the first thing he does after killing the woman who was operating on him is go and find them and kill the guy, but leaves the girl. When they're leaving, this movie's kind of fun when they're leaving Earth's orbit of Earth 1, they pass a bunch of detritus, like a bunch of like old satellite parts and things, and then like there's one billboard that's floating in space that says Lunar Estates. If you lived here, you'd be home by now. And they show like condos on the moon. So that must have been like a thing in between Earth 1 and Earth 2, was we colonized the moon for a while, but that's also now hundreds in the past. That's fine. At one point, this one older guy who's like the ship's engineer, it says like, this isn't even the worst I've seen. The Microsoft conflict. That was the worst thing I've ever. The Microsoft conflict. We were beating each other to death with our own severed limbs. Anyway, he gets out and he kills all the. They're gonna set. They find the dead kids. So we got to send out the Marines after him, because thought out Rowan explains who Jason Voorhees is, and we got to get him. So they send out all the Marines after him. All the Marines are one by one killed in a little game of cat and mouse. Oh, there's one cool thing like on the holodeck. There's like where they're like playing like a game with virtual reality headsets. Jason, who is not wearing a headset, somehow can also see these aliens and like chops one in half with his machete. And the guys who are playing it go like, I thought this was supposed to be an alien sim. What's the slasher guy doing here? I don't know. Maybe some virus got into the code. So they take off their headsets and he's standing right there, so they kills him.
That's cute. There's some fun things in this one.
Yeah, there are some fun things in this one, including near the end. There's there's one older student who's the one who's actually been programming the KM-14, which is Knowledge Matrix. It stands for the android. And so he gives her an upgrade. So now she is a battle bot. Like she can now do flips and shoots things, and she does karate.
That rules.
So she blows all the limbs off of him with a shotgun that like shoots laser cutter things. So she shoots all the limbs off of him and blows his head off, and then he flies back and lands, wouldn't you know it, on a they thought was too damaged to still work nanobot machine. So the nanobots rebuild Jason into an unkillable metal cyborg. So that was probably a bad idea.
Not great.
So
Not great of them.
So everybody's killed. They're trying to get to a space station, and the pilot on their little shuttle thing is killed before he can take it out of hyperdrive or whatever. So it just like blows through the space station and explodes it, but like it doesn't kill them. I don't know how that happens. But eventually it's just down to like Dr. Rowan and Suneron, I guess is his name. The kid who has the android as a pet, and then her head, because when he comes back to life as a cyborg, he's like, "Don't worry, I got this," and he just punches her head off with one blow. But her head's still alive because she's an android. So he's carrying around like a football as he's hold on. Here's the head. He's running away from Jason. They blow up part of the thing to like detach everything from itself, and then Jason follows them anyway. He winds up walking through the holodeck, so they create a simulation of Crystal Lake, including like cabins and camps, and then campers, 2 co-eds in little short shorts and like little tiny little crop tops that barely cover their underboobs.
Of course.
And like, "Hi, hey, big boy, do you want to come drink alcohol with us?" And then the other one goes, "And smoke pot." And the other the first one goes, "And have premarital sex." And they say together, "We love premarital sex."
So it's become self-aware.
It's become incredibly self-aware. And then he kills both of them. They're holograms, but he kills them. because they're laying it, they get in their other, we love premarital sex, and they get into their sleeping bags and like, come here. And so he picks up one of them in the sleeping bag and beats the other one with one of them on the sleeping bag, and then hits the other one against a tree a few times, and then drops him. And then he realizes, wait a minute, this isn't real. There's no blood. I mean, I don't know why he realizes it's not real, but he realizes it's not real. And then so that the ruse doesn't last. And so they're finally able to, another ship has come to rescue them, but they can't open the exterior doors because the thing's shorted out. So they send a guy out to do a spacewalk to like reconfigure everything from outside. And so they're able to get across the other side. But then Jason, the whole thing, the Jason villain explodes and sends him flying over toward them. Like they could see him coming. But the dude, the sergeant, who was the last surviving space marine, flies over there and takes him out. And they burn up both of them on re-entry into Earth 2's atmosphere. And a shooting star goes across a lake as two teens go, oh my God, a shooting star, it's so romantic. And they start making out. And they go, it landed in the lake. Let's go see. And then there's his new cyborg mask just sinks to the bottom of the lake. End of Jason X.
I mean, that sounds like the best one because it sounds like it turned into a parody of itself.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun.
But it's not good.
But not good. It's not good. I will say it's fun. It's the most fun I had watching any of them, and the only one I would consider ever watching again.
So out of 10 movies, it took to the last one to get to something fun.
It did.
And you would never watch any of the other ones again?
No. Get the flicks out of here.
Get the franchise out of here.
Yeah.
Are you a Freddy Krueger fan?
I've never seen any of the Nightmare on Elm Street ones. So.
Wow. Maybe there's a whole franchise for you to hate there too.
Maybe. I feel like at least it's more imaginative because like he enters people's dreams.
It does seem like a more creative horror thing.
Like it's a more creative world. Like you can with each. This is why they were New Line and was trying to buy this franchise, try and reinvigorate it. Paramount didn't want to get it up, whatever. But the diminishing box office returns kept going down and down and down for Friday the 13th. They kept going up and up and up for Nightmare on Elm Street. So like it was negrowing in popularity. I'm assuming it's just better. So
that makes sense.
Must be next.
It's wild
next year.
It took that long to get to the crossover, but there you
go. They were trying to, but they couldn't figure out when New Line Cinema bought the rights to Jason, not Friday the 13th. So that's why episodes 9 and 10 are called Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, because they could not legally call it Friday the 13th.
13th. Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh? There you go. Well, I'll get the franchise out of here because I don't watch scary things. So, and you'll get it out of here because it's bad.
This is bad. This is bad. Jason X is probably the only one that is fun. And I just thought, I mean, when you see Corey Feldman walk down the stairs as a child, having shaved his own head in a master scheme to distract Jason, he also shaves his own head with a razor and some shaving cream, from like a full on like Beatles mop top haircut to like bald. He does that in about 2 minutes and 25 seconds. So like it's not possible. But when you see it, like, and he comes down and he's sure this gambit is gonna work, and it does.
You're out.
I mean, that's some crazy stuff. Yeah. No, I watched the Halloween stuff, Japan. I watched Halloween. I watched all the Halloweens in preparation for the reboots when they came out in 2007. I watched all of those. Child's Play. It's a fucking doll. Kick it. Kick the doll. It's 2 feet. It's 2 feet tall. Kick the doll.
Kick the doll.
Kick the doll. I've always said, kick it. Kick it. It's very small. Kick the doll. It rhymes.
It does, which means it has to work.
But I have often thought I need to watch the Children of the Corn franchise because that is probably way bonkers. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff to do. We're going to be doing this show for literal years, you guys.
Yeah, forever till we retire.
There are lots and lots of Schlocktober's in the future. We'll definitely do one of these for Nightmare on Elm Street next October, but we have 2 more really great Schlocktoberfest in the works. Yeah, we do. So next week is called Frankenhooker. It's gonna be great. It's called Frankenhooker. How can you not love it? It's called Frankenhooker. So next week is called Frankenhooker. And then the next week is called Chopping Mall. I get it? Chopping Mall. So come on. You gotta watch those. They're on Tubi if you want to watch along. Frankenhooker and Chopping Mall are both on Tubi. So watch those for the next 2 weeks. Until then, Kate, I'm sure those are going to be terrible. I'm sure we're going to say, get the flick out of here. Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.